Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today on this video, we're here in the garage and just kind of going through all of my, important equipment in the boat. Not the fishing equipment, but the stuff that keeps the boat running and out there on the water, keeps me out there on the water. So we're talking about like spare parts, things that I carry on board that I've kind of collected over the years. I've got tackle boxes like this that are just full of different spare parts. A lot of them are really not even relevant nowadays. I mean, I probably need to go through here and liquidate some of the stuff that I've got in there. I've got like, foot pedal switches for motor guide trolling motors. I got a bunch of those, just stuff that I used to have to replace out there on the water. I got all that, but it's hard for me to throw stuff away. I'm not really a pack rat until it comes, gets into fishing tackle and the stuff associated with it. So just looking at that box, I definitely have some work kind of whittling that down. But there's a lot of stuff in that box and many of the other compartments that I have, designated for spare parts and tools and things like that. That I have learned over the years are things that I definitely need to keep in the boat. So I wanted to share some of those things with you. Obviously, there's going to be way more than that. I'm not going to show you all the hardware and stuff that I need specifically for, different parts of the boat and fixing certain things. I'm not going to show you the fuses that I carry. Those are super important. We've already talked about those in other videos I've done on this topic. And I'm not going to show you like all the electrical connectors and things like that. Those are all pretty basic stuff that you should have on your boat. Fuses, connectors, things and hardware, things that will allow you to fix something on the water, and then of course the tools to fix them. These are the things I'm going to show you are really specific things on most bass boats today that you need for a specific issue, a specific problem. And so I wanted to go ahead and show you those things. I'm a little bit sluggish today. Just got over getting whatever it was. I don't want to call it a cold because that kind of undermines the severity of it. Whatever it was, it took me out, completely out. So I'm still a little bit loopy today. But anyways, we're going to try to power through this. But the first thing I want to show you guys is in my hand right now. I wonder if you can guess what it is. This is actually something that I had to let my buddy, my neighbor, grab the other day, about a week and a half ago. He ended up winning a tournament, and he needed this part because his ended up breaking on his boat. But it is a part of a component of pretty much most bass boats. I mean, it's pretty much the gold standard on bass boats nowadays. I don't know of many guys that run a boat, a high performance, recent model bass boat without this. And we're talking about the hot foot. The hot foot underneath the console there at the driving, at the helm. You've got that just car-like, throttle. And that you I love and pretty much all tournament anglers love is that just really intuitive throttle that we have with that foot pedal, man. It's killer, and it's something that I'll never buy a bass boat without if I can help it. And one of the weakest links on that hot foot, I really haven't had any issues other than this one component. And if you've had issues with a hot foot, you're likely to know exactly what I'm talking about. This sucker right here. The spring. The spring on a hot foot is pretty heavy duty. I mean, you're not going to be able to pull it out very far, just by hand. It is pretty heavy duty, but these things do end up breaking. They don't break in the middle there. They always just break right here at the corner of the arm. That's the weak point in this whole spring, one side or the other. But this is a spring that once it breaks, man, if you're out there on the water, you're going to have to, they do have like a hook on the on the front of the pedal that allows you, if it does break, to manually pull the pedal back. But it's super dangerous. I mean, it's not something that you want to have to do, especially when you're around boats and trying to maneuver and stuff, because if you, for some reason, you don't end up finding that little hook that can, keeps your foot on it, and you can pull the throttle back, you can get in an accident. So, and it's just not fun to do. When that thing breaks, yes, you can limp along and fish without it for a bit, but man, it's really going to be something that bugs you for the rest of the day. So always keep one of these on hand. I'll usually even have 2 of them on hand. So right now I think I only have one. I've got another one right here. This is not the same thing. Okay, this is a spring that I procured from who knows what, but it looked like the same spring from the Hot Foot. It's definitely not as beefy, but I just kept it on hand just as like a plan C type thing. So anyways, always keep a new spring for your Hot Foot, man, because inevitably this is going to go out. And I think I've probably had about 4 of those things go out over my tournament career, which is pretty good, but still, that's a pretty high rate of failure for a major component that you really do need. The next spare part, and I'm going to try to put all the links for all this stuff in the description below. I know that the spring is something that you could probably get it at bassboatelectronics.com. I know when my buddy Seth borrowed mine and bought me a new one, he ended up getting it from tgwatersports.com, and it was cool because when I got it in the mail, I got a note from a guy that was actually my co-angler back in 2012 on Bull Shoals fishing the TBF National Championship. So shout out to Carl Belts, who's the owner of tgwatersports.com. That's where Seth got it. I think he got it probably off of eBay, but TG ended up taking care of it. But anyways, all right, so let's move on. So the next thing that I have found super helpful to keep on board over the years. I remember the last time I needed one, I was up at Lake Champlain. Not the last time, but one of the times that it was like really, really important that I had it. I was up in Lake Champlain and fighting some big waves. It was during a practice day, fortunately, and all of a sudden, as I'm fighting the big waves, my electronics start coming off of the mounts. One of the graphs just completely came off the mounts, and I just ended up under good fortune, I ended up having one of these knobs that was for that particular brand. I think it was a Humminbird at the time, but I had a knob to be able to tighten that back up. And so keeping a bunch of these on hand is really important. I actually have locks on most of my electronics on this boat, and when you have those type of lock systems, whether it's Durasafe or any of the other brands, you essentially are going to have just a bolt within that locking, a mechanism, instead of having a knob like this. And so you usually can just store your knobs in a tackle box or whatever, in your spare parts box in your boat, and have them on hand. I would highly suggest that as opposed to just keeping them in your garage. Always keep spare of these on your boat, I'm telling you, and keep more than you think you need. If you've got them, keep them, because you might need 4 of them. If things get really rough, a lot of times you don't know where they go. If they back out completely, and you lose them, sometimes they're gone. That you may not just be able to find them over by the foot pedal or down here in the cockpit area. They may have blown out of the boat, or the lock that you're using, it backed out and the bolt's gone, you know, maybe you find the locker, whatever the situation is, you need to have those knobs. All right, so the next thing, I have talked about this quite a bit in the past. I had a different style of solution for this whole deal. I need to get a drink of water real quick. But, you know, one of the biggest things that I am wary of, I've only had to be delayed a few times in my career, is having a bad light post or bad navigation lights in general, whether it's the red and green up front or the all-around white on the back. Having a bad water or, you know, navigable light can delay you at blast off. Okay, and it's a safety issue too. So if you're out there on the water, fog rolls in, you need to have this. You're liable, you know, for an accident if you don't have your navigation lights under, you know, low light conditions and low visibility conditions. So having a spare for a light post, and I don't think that just having an extra light post is the deal, because if something's wrong with it, there's a good chance it's not in the post itself, it's in the plug or in the electrical system. You know, it could be all the way at the helm here that the issue is happening. So I like to have a completely separate battery-powered auxiliary system in place, and so I used to run these. That, you know, you could find one of these like kayak and John boat, you know, kits that has battery-powered light, which I've had great success with before. You know, you could just zip tie this to your post on your boat that you're using already, or you can zip tie it to the front, whatever, and it's battery powered. But as you can see, this has fresh batteries and it's not working, and it didn't work for me when I needed it the last tournament that I actually forgot my light post. So we're going to throw that in the trash. But I ended up finding this little gem of a navigation light system. This one right here, ended up getting it at Walmart. I'm gonna see if I can find it online and give you guys a link to it. But it essentially will strap onto the light post that I already have on the boat without needing a zip tie or anything. It'll just right off the bat do it for me. So I got two white lights to complete a all-around white light. And then I've got the red and the green. So having a battery-powered backup for this, super, super good idea to have on board for sure. Again, I've talked about that, but I wanted to kind of update that whole thing because, you know, I found this product, and I think that this is pretty awesome. I did accidentally pull out one of those pull tabs, so one of them's active now, but hopefully the battery doesn't go dead or something like that. I'm trying to keep all of them in there until I need it. All right, so the final spare part that everybody needs, this is another one that I've already talked about. I've already, you know, been blue in the face, you know, talking about keeping this on board, is a prop, you know, a spare prop. You don't have to keep it in the box. I would suggest not to keep it in the box, but a spare prop for your engine, super, super important. Okay, so you know, in the bilge area there on my boat, I always make sure that I've got enough space with my battery system so I can facilitate a spare prop with the Phoenix spare prop holder. You know, the bracket that comes with the Phoenix. And I also carry a spare of that post that you use to screw down the prop too. So that's another spare part that I keep. But there's no real excuse for not having a spare prop. It's like driving your car without a spare tire. It really is. I mean, that's exactly what's going on. And so it's super important to have a spare prop on hand. I always suggest having a different prop than what you already run. Just make sure it's a good fit for your boat. Like I'll usually carry a spare prop, you know, with like a 4-blade, like a Fury 4 for certain weather conditions, so I can swap to that. You know, if I feel like that's going to be better for big water, you know, if I feel like I'm going to fight like big giant waves on the St. Lawrence or on Erie or on Champlain or Sam Rayburn or something like that, I might switch to the 4-blade prop just for better performance in rough water. So you have two different options, but at least you have a spare prop regardless. You know, if you throw a blade on it, which happens, it really does happen. And, you know, it hasn't happened to me, but, you know, blowing out spinning a hub is also a big issue. So you got to carry a spare hub too. I mean, you're not going to really have the tools to be able to knock out an old hub anyways. So you make sure that you carry a spare hub. I actually carry one of these. This is like one of the versions of, you know, the mercury hubs that I carry. This one's easy because I can just take in and out. It's not, you know, rubber, so I don't need to like press it into the prop at all. But that's a good one to have on hand. And then of course the nuts and the washers, you want to make sure you have the full system. And that goes for the trolling motor too. Making sure you have a spare trolling motor prop. This is for the power pole move. Always make sure you carry a spare trolling motor prop. Usually I actually carry 2 or 3 extra props for my trolling motor. At least one in the boat and then maybe 2 others in the truck. Because, you know, even though you're not going to like blow off, you know, break the blade completely most of the time. I've never done that. You could have little nicks that create sound and catch grass and all that stuff. And so, and also reduce the overall thrust. And so you want to make sure that you have a fresh one, you know, for tournament day. And then make sure you have all the assembly for that, you know, that system, you know, and make sure you got a bunch of those, because I'm telling you, the pins that go on these trolling motor, you know, hub assemblies, I've dropped them in the water multiple times, and you want to make sure you've got plans B, C, D, E, and F, you know, and then G is going to be probably cutting a straight shank hook. You know, and you know, flipping hook and putting that in there instead of, I've done that before too. So, you know, we get a little MacGyverish out there on the water. So, but anyways, that is, I think, it for now. I mean, again, I'm probably going to do a bunch of these videos and talk about the same things over and over again. But these are very important things. These are things that you really need to take into consideration, especially if money's on the line, or if you're going on a big long trip, and you know, if this is a once in a lifetime trip, even if you're not fishing for money or something like that, you don't want to be dead in the water. You don't want to ruin your trip just because of something that could have been easily preventable. So hopefully these things are helpful for you. Again, I'll try to put some links in the description below so you can find some of these things. And other than that, make sure you like, share, subscribe. I'm going to see you guys out on the water. Make sure you trust the process.